Traveling by plane has become normality for many nowadays, but the kind where you're pestered with screaming kids and earache for hours usually don't have much in common with these gigantic airflight models made for greater use. That's why today we give you 7 unnaturally big planes that can really fly. Let's start with number 7, Boeing B-52. The name Boeing should be familiar even to plane amateurs because many big airliners come from the US American company. The Boeing B-52 is a heavy, long-distance bomber of the US Air Force and was used in many conflicts such as the Vietnam War, the Second Gulf War, as well as the Kosovo War. It was last used in the war against ISIS over Syria and Iraq. The incredible thing about the Boeing is its service life, as the planes are supposed to be used until 2040. As the last B-52 was made in 1962, that means it's been in use for astounding 78 years, which is an extremely long time for such a plane. Number 6, Hughes H4 Hercules. The Hughes H4 Hercules is an impressive plane, also known as Spruce Goose. It's appeared in several movies and TV shows and is the biggest ever built plane according to its wingspread. It reaches incredible 320 feet. Theoretically, it could transport up to 750 passengers, but it has only been flown close to the ground so far, which is why its flight abilities in higher spheres can't be confirmed. Since its last and only flight in the year of 1947, it's been at Stillstand and was only made accessible to the public after Hughes' death. Since 1992, the seaplane can be seen in the Evergreen Aviation Museum in Oregon. Next, number 5, Lockheed C-5 Galaxy. The magnitude of this colossal can only be imagined if you place a grown human next to it. Powered by 4 engines, the Lockheed C-5 Galaxy was built mainly for the military transport and intercontinental range. That's why the cargo hold is accessible over the bow as well as the rear and is 120 feet long, 19 feet wide, and 13.5 feet tall. This allows the C-5 the transport of several helicopters, fighting tanks, and even complete lorries. Also, there's enough space for a second crew, as well as a completely furnished passengers department for 75 people. At the end of 2012, there were 73 planes of the 131 produced used by the US Air Force. And number 4, Convair B-36 Peacemaker. There were 384 Convair B-36 Peacemakers produced between 1947 and 1954 for the US Americans. This is the biggest bomber flown by the US Air Force, which could carry 39 tons of bombs, as well as 16 20mm machine guns. Developed at the beginning of the 1940s, the goal was to attack Europe in the case of Germany's invasion of Great Britain. That's why it was essential to build a bomber with high capacity and high range, suitable for the stretch USA, Europe, USA. 2 accidents occurred in connection with the bomber. On the 14th of February 1950, the Air Force's B-36 accidentally dropped an atomic bomb over Canada, but it dropped into the sea and the detonation was never released. Rumor has it that it was just a mock-up. Years later, in May 1957, a weapons system officer accidentally pressed the escapement, which led to a fusion bomb being dropped, leaving a 12-feet crater, as only the conventional explosives exploded. Next up, number 3, Antonov An-124. You could call this an answer to the just shown Lockheed C-5 Galaxy. The Russians designed the Antonov An-124 at the end of the 70s. The goal was to develop a plane with very high payload for the Soviet army of the USSR. The developers managed this, as the An-124 broke the record of the heaviest single package transported through the air when it carried the 135.2 heavy Siemens generator with it in 1993. This record was broken by its follow-up, An-225. The NATO, as well as the EU, have 6 planes available since 2006, all of which are parked at the airport Leipzig-Halle. Nearly there, number 2, Airbus A380. The name Airbus cannot be missed on this ranking. The model Airbus A380 is an actinomorphic plane with 2 passenger decks. In total, it can capacitate up to 853 passengers, which makes the A380 the biggest mass-produced civilian plane in history of aviation. The first machine was handed over to the Singapore Airlines on the 15th of October 2007 in Toulouse. 10 days later, it started on its first passenger's flight. Then Singapore Airlines set up its first line connection of the A380 between Singapore and Sydney. By December, the 147 machines transported incredible 75 million passengers in 1,700,000 flight hours. And today's number 1, Airbus Beluga. The Airbus A300-600 ST does its second name Beluga justice, as it really really does look like a whale. It's a modification of standard line, with an addition of ST for super transporter, as it's made to transport big loads. Nowadays, the Airbus is mainly used to transport plane sections between different Airbus locations everywhere in Europe. For this, its cargo area is built bigger than the previously mentioned C-5 Galaxy or Antonov AN-124. However, only 5 supertransporter planes were produced, all under the direction of the Airbus subsidiary Transport International, and can be booked including a pilot if necessary. By 2025, the bigger version of the Beluga should be on its way, as Airbus announced in November 2014. Now you can watch another video. Just click here in the middle of the video. That's it for today again. Stay well and see you next time. Bye!